Now, ahead of President Akufo-Addo's much-anticipated address to the nation on the current economic challenges, tonight we will probe the options available to him in this quest to resuscitate the economy as he secures a breather for under-fire finance minister. But joining me in studio for this all-important conversation is that Asante Achim North MP, Andy Kwame Appiah-Kubi, who led a charge against the finance minister and the minister of state at the finance ministry 48 hours ago, who we understand they are backtracking on the demands they made now. We sure should be able to probe that. Also joining us pretty soon via Zoom is a member of the Coalition for Democratic Accountability and Inclusive Governance, who also within the last 48 hours have been speaking tough about the role of the finance minister going forward in the Republic of Ghana. Professor Techiwa Menu should be joining this conversation, but we'll also be having that conversation with that distinguished economist Kwame Pianim on what we should do if we want to bring back and put the economy on the right pedestal. This is UPfront. My name is Raymond Acquah. Let me welcome my guest in studio, the Honorable Andy Appiah-Kubi. I mean, in the last 48 hours, yes, you've been a hero. You're almost becoming a villain soon, but we sure will be talking about that. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
I hope you are in good health.
Very much so.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, what has been the reaction after the last rigmarole in the last 48 hours?
Right. You reckon that the last 48 hours had been a little politically sensitive period. We had a press conference. Indeed, the message that came through the press conference was not exactly my personal message, but it was a message of all the group of people which I'm part. Indeed, we made some pronouncements to the effect that the president must relieve the finance minister and the minister of state in the finance ministry of their responsibilities and duties. We gave the timeline as starting from then, and we also expected that if this was not done, government business, we were not going to participate with managing government business. Now, fast forward, the General Caucus came to adopt our position. So it became now caucus decision. I'm happy that the General Caucus reasoned with us and took the opportunity to also join us and therefore elevate the position into a total caucus proposition. Then there was this government intervention. President called for us to dialogue on the subject matter. We attended and I was present. And government came to us, and to be honest with you, I want to congratulate the president for the composure, the posture, and the attitude, body language, the delivery on the day. We were going to the presidency expecting that the president would come and would want to push back the message we had sent to him. But he came in a very sober mood and appealed to our conscience that yes, he accepts the position we have taken. He accepts our request for the removal of the two persons, and he also accepts the feeling of the generality of the Ghanaian population, and he also does not also doubt the instructions we are receiving from our constituents, and therefore gave a promise that we are not in very good time, and that we have ongoing IMF deliberations, that if he should accept our position and act upon it now, chances are that our partners will lose faith in us, and this lack of good faith may affect the process, and they may even request that we start the whole process again. That will lead to a delay in the processing. And don't forget, we need the parameters from the negotiations to feed into our budget, so that our budget to be presented on the 15th of November, as statute requires, will be affected. And therefore, we will be out of budget by the time the statutory period comes. And that will have its dire consequences on the economy in the 223 year. So upon that prayer, most of us thought that we needed to go back and go and rethink the issues with this kind of intervention. So we went back to caucus and we analyzed the president's submissions and sought opinions from the generality of the caucus. Let me tell you, it was difficult because people had different positions, and indeed, most of the positions were against what the president had, advised. So it was pretty difficult for the leaders of caucus. And let me also emphasize that at that point, the negotiation was being led by the caucus, by our caucus leaders, not by the group of 95 MPs who had earlier on signed on to support the position of the smaller group of majority MPs. So the caucus was in lead in the discussions, albeit that every now and again they would also make references to us so that we will also give them opinions on the positions going forward. So at the end of the day, when we did a reconciliation of opinions, it came out that the caucus generally had decided to accept the president's prayer that we abate the action that we seek for now until the IMF Ghana negotiations are completed, and that the budget proposal is also tabled before Parliament. Yes, that was the position of the caucus. For me, at that point, it was all of us working together and telling the president. In fact, they had to go to the president to tell him of this decision for all of us to accept his proposal that we wait until he finishes, we roll out the appropriations. So IMF first round negotiation will end this week. So we thought that is not a long time. And that is very critical for the purpose of preparation of the budget. So we acceded to that request. And then personally, I was of the position that, yes, it sounds reasonable to accept the negotiations to finish next week because it was only a week. But for me, I did not accept the position that the finance minister and his minister of state should engage in the preparation of the budget and come into Parliament to present the budget. So I was of that opinion that we should not allow. But I am one in the group, and there are also members of the group who thought that, well, we should go further and allow him to come and prepare the budget and, file it and manage the process through the appropriation. So at the end of the day, we had to count heads. And obviously, majority of our members decided that let's at least allow for the negotiations to close and allow for the budget to be prepared and filed, allow for the appropriation to be taken to the end. Give and take, it will take us into December before Christmas. By that time, and indeed, we're going to be rising in December. So by that time, we would have finished with the budget and the appropriation, and therefore the work of the finance minister and the minister of state will come to an end. So give and take, maximum six weeks we have to accommodate this minister. So if the majority of the people thought that, I have no problem. I was thinking differently, but I had to succumb to the position of the majority of us.
I'll come to the point, because in all fairness, this position that you listened to the president on was the same position, according to the majority leader, he canvassed, but people did not take it.
Yes, it was a different ballgame. At that point, it was my majority leader probably talking to president. I was not there, so I cannot be privy to that, and I was not witness at any point. There was no document to that effect, so I cannot own up to that position as he was professing.
Yeah.
But I have been part of this discussion with the majority leader with the party hierarchy, with interest groups in Ghana, civil society organizations, academia, chieftaincy institutions, and in fact, religious institutions. We did a lot of consultation. Believe me, we didn't just start a day and come out with our press conference the following day. No. It took us about 2 weeks to do the necessary consultation. And the thing that baffles me sometimes is that people think that we didn't make a lot of consultation.
I'll come to that point. Let me go to both Zoom and also go to the phone, because I understand that distinguished economist Kwame Pianim is joining us now. Good evening, sir, and welcome to UPfront.
Good evening.
I'll cut to the chase because I know you don't have a lot of time. Now, the majority MPs have agreed, according to the president's own plea, for the current finance minister to continue with the IMF negotiations and also present a budget. The question has been raised, does Ken Ofori-Atta, does he have the legitimacy, or if you like, credibility, to continue as finance minister negotiating an IMF deal and presenting a budget anytime soon?
Look, either we face the crisis with a sense of urgency that it demands. It is not one person holding a position or not. If you don't believe in going to the IMF, how can you negotiate for that? The IMF negotiations are going badly. We cannot do it in 3 weeks. The statement the IMF could have said, maybe they can have a staff-level agreement by December. By December, our currency may have melted down beyond irreversible. And then we'll have to go to the controls. Those of you who are young, it means there will be price controls on key elements. It means there will be controls on foreign currency. You have to go and line up to get foreign currency. This is not what we want. We want the market deciding for us. Ken has done well. There are 32 million of us. The president can have a pick. It is his choice to get somebody. But don't let them say, after Ken has negotiated an agreement he doesn't believe in, and he presents a budget, who is then coming to take over and implement the budget? The person may have his own view. So let's be serious and tackle the problem with a sense of urgency that they require. And not for the parliamentarians. They are part of the problem. All the agreements we signed getting to a level of where our debt is not sustainable. They are there. The public finance management laws are very clear. When the Minister for Finance is presenting any budget, any law, he has to bring a financial impact assessment attached to it as a minister, as a MP, whether they look at those things. We have this unsustainable debt because of them. They didn't do their job. So it's not up to them now to say they are agreeing the minister 3 weeks. The level we have reached, we have to be serious. Either we want to tackle this problem very quickly so that within 9 months, the economy is stabilized, 6 to 9 months, the economy is stabilized, and the president has about a year, 9 months to implement some of his flagship agenda. But now, all expenditures to be suspended, except the emergency one. We demonstrate to the IMF that we are serious, we'll cut the expenditure. As I said, no flagship project is a sacred cow. We should review all of them for efficiency, for financial efficiency, and move forward. That's what we need to do. So letting somebody stay for 3 weeks when he has sat for 5 years will not happen.
So if you're advising the president directly now, what will you ask him to do?
I'll say, Mr. President, put on your COVID fighting gloves. Tell the IMF, I own the economic crisis in Ghana now. I'll do whatever it takes, cut whatever expenditure it takes sacrifice whatever flagships I need to sacrifice to stabilize the economy and stop the unraveling of the city. And when the president says that, and that I'm going to give you a credible messenger to carry my message, you see the city stabilize and be on the path to a new stabilization. And then after that, we all will sit down as Ghanaians and say, what expenditures, what level of expenditure do we want to take and move on? You know, when I was a young man, petrol was contributing to public revenue. Electricity and all this were contributing to public revenue. We didn't have oil. Now we have oil. We've given so many concessions that we are financing every rich boy who is driving a four-wheel drive on these nice roads when four-wheel drives are supposed to go to the village. What kind of thing are we doing? There's no Father Christmas. We have to cut our coat according to our cloth. There's no Father Christmas. If we say we are doing planting for food and jobs, if the Minister for Finance has put money in the budget for planting for food and jobs, we'll have maize now. How many of your relatives eat bread for breakfast? If they have corn, maize, dough, it's fine. And let those people who are talking broadly on television, we can have legalized, fine, artisanal mining. It's crazy. Nobody does that. Our people who are doing it, a lot of them don't have the basic science to see that when we are using mercury has adverse effects. It's polluting our cocoa. Cocoa sold are being returned because they have touches of mercury in them. And we soon will not have water. Everybody, the message I'm sending is that please, NPP communicators, young people, it's your future. For some of us, we are in the waiting room, waiting for our wedding pajamas. It's you and your children that Ken has borrowed money for you to be paid. Please let him go and rest and let somebody else take over. And the communicators, please keep quiet for one, so that there is silence on the radio and we can listen to good sense. Nobody, no communicator should be spending. Look, people lost their lives to build the NP. It isn't a bicycle for anybody to drive to his destination and dump it into the gutter. The MP is your political life. If they wait for this crisis to get out of hand, there's no petrol because there's no letters of credit to bring it in. And without you for petrol, and the young, angry boys who don't have jobs get angry and politics spills onto the street, they are going to be out of the wilderness. By the time they come back, they'll be too old to be competing. So the crisis should be acknowledged for what it is. It's a serious crisis. It's a Sri Lanka-like crisis. And we should nip it in the bud now. In my village, they say, "Asemptesi of the bar, Frank Institute." Let the talk be born. And you see, when you have a minister who does not believe in the Constitution and is prepared to flout it, he also damages a lot of institutions. You know, when you take your bill, any bill, your bus bill, you see there are indications. You are paying for e-levy, you are paying for this one, you are paying for road or tree lighting, you are paying for national health. If the Minister for Finance doesn't give those money to the national health, he's destroying our institutions. We don't want that. When you are supplemental payment, the previous government has not been paying their district assembly common fund. Because the Osamu believes in the Constitution and rule of law, he pays for the arrears. So if you are Minister for Finance and the funds that come to you, the ones you know don't belong to you, don't touch it. Keep it. Snitch. The Minister for Finance is the employer. If you don't pay the state levy, you should be sanctioned to pay the TB rate that I pay when I don't pay my attempts on time. But representatives of workers sit on the Senate board, and they allow the minister to get away and come and say, I'll pay only 1% or 2%. It's a pension. Now people are going to go to pension, and there will be no money to pay for them. So it is important that when you have a minister who doesn't believe in the rule of law, and he won't pass on the revenue that belongs to others because he's using it for something else, he weakens our institutions. So Ken should go now, before he destroys further the new constitutional regime that we have. Because if we don't preserve it, you young people, you don't know what we went through, what we always put us through to get this freedom you talk about, the freedom of the press, human liberties that we have. My ability to speak now as I'm speaking without waiting for somebody to knock on my door to take me to cell. Okay? This is what is at stake. And we should not joke with it. So I'm appealing to our NPT communicators. Please, keep quiet. Don't communicate. Don't defend anybody. Your role is to defend the party for the party to be there to win the next election for you. So that you can take it and grow the economy. When your wife is sick, they can go to hospital and be looked after. When your child is ready to go to school, he has a good school to go to. And when your child finishes school, he has a good job, a good paying job to go. This is what we want to grow. It is not for keeping anybody in power.
I guess I have to leave it off here, but there's a last question I need to ask you. The question is being asked, if the finance minister leaves right now, who will replace him?
For goodness sake, why should you ask this question? We have 32 million Ghanaians. If those of us all in Ghana cannot do it, I can go onto the street, close my eyes, and pick 10 people who do the job better than Ken Okoyata is doing. What are we talking about? In my village, they will tell you, okay, home may be grown, no order. When the uncle hadn't discovered that nice girl inside the street was sleeping, the best minister for finance we've ever had was J.H. Mensah. He was 40 years old when he was running the ministry. And he's not a young man. He's 64. He's done enough. And I'm appealing to him. In the name of the good Lord he professes to believe in and to worship, please go before you destroy this country.
I have to leave it here. I am grateful to you, and I'm very grateful for you joined us, even though you're quite busy at this time. That's distinguished economist Kwame Pianim with his thoughts there. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I will stay on the line and actually transition to Zoom now and speak to Professor Techua Menu. Now, Prof is with that group, the coalition, that wonderful coalition that's also been making some demands on the government of this republic now. They are backing the calls for the finance minister to step aside. Prof, you're welcome to UPfront.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Good evening to you and to your listeners.
Prof, I need you to help me out here. There has been several reasons canvassed for the removal or the resignation of the finance minister. For you, the distinguished members of this citizens coalition, what is your beef with the finance minister?
Thank you very much, Raymond. Yesterday, we held a press conference, and in that press conference, we articulated our positions about the current situation and made some demands on government, basically in 3 areas of governance, the economy, and also on energy and natural resource management. And with the governance, we started by associating ourselves with a call by the majority NPP caucus in Parliament for the dismissal of the Minister of Finance and his deputy. It is a position that we still hold. We understand the enormous pressure that this group of persons, the MPs in Parliament must have faced for them to now say that they have acceded to the call of the President to put on hold their demand. I also listened to Honorable Appiah on this program, and I agree with Mr. Kwame Pianim. There is no way we are going to finish our IMF negotiations in 3 weeks. If we are lucky, we may come to that staff agreement by December. The agreement must still go before the IMF board, and it will take us some time to secure the agreement. The budget has been postponed before. It looks likely that it will be postponed again. So for these negotiations to feed into the budget, for it to be presented by November 15th is almost impossible. It's impossible for that to happen. And as Mr. Pianim has said, there are many other competent and capable Ghanaians who can do the job. We saw what happened with Mr. Kwesi Kwarteng in the UK. As soon as he was called home and given his marching orders, there was a new chancellor that same day. I believe that if the president is minded, he can find somebody else. So it's not like there is only one person who can do it. It's not a program of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. It's a Ghanaian program. Whoever the Ghanaian government puts forward, the staff members of the IMF who are dealing with the delegation will sit and deal with him. So we must not make it like, it's a do and die. Either there is Ken or there's no agreement. It is not like that. So that was as I said, we can understand the enormous pressure that the NPP MPs must have come under in the last 2 days. But we commend their action. It is unprecedented for MPs from the governing party. And we heard Mr. Appiah say that personally, he was not convinced. But of course, it's a majoritarian system. So he's agreed to what the majority has agreed to. We are under no such compulsion. We are not members of the MPP or members of parliament, etc. So we still stick to our call that the president must, what shall I say, unencumber Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta and his deputy and allow these talks to go on. Having said that, Raymond, I want to emphasize that an IMF bailout is not going to solve all the problems in this country. We've done it. This will be the 17th time. And as an article in the South African Institute of Strategic Studies of October 20th, written by a Ghanaian, by the way, said what these programs do is that they instill the fiscal discipline that we ourselves seem not to be able to, that historically it has offered some level of macroeconomic stability, but it has not solved the problems. It's like there's something wrong with your eye and you've gone to the hospital 17 times. They are not going to cure you. What they are trying to do is to make sure that your eye is still open, you can see something. So the hard work still needs to be done by government and by the Ghanaian people. And we should not kid ourselves that once we have an IMF program, it's a panacea for all our problems. Yes, it will give us some breathing space. It will restore that stability. The ratings agencies may look again because we have to comply. And, instead of downgrading us to junk, might decide that now we deserve a C- or a B-, negative outlook and the like. But the hard work has to be done by Ghanaians. So we went on to look at the economy and measures that need to be taken, even back to the governance, because you are going to ask me, what must the president do? The president can start by cutting the size of government. Why do we need 100 ministers or 85 ministers now and 1,000 staffers at such tremendous cost to ourselves with their fleets of V8s, very gas-guzzling vehicles and the like? This is something, and as the executive director of CDD, Professor Kwesi Prempeh, keeps saying, We don't control, or we don't control our economy, but we can control our governance. So why can we not do the things that are within our ability by cutting the size of government, starting to cut the profligate expenditure that we inflict on ourselves? That leads me to, the tax exemptions and other things that we grant. We're looking for $3 billion from the IMF. There's no guarantee that we will get it. And yet, one company, Gensa, has been able to secure $1.5 billion in all kinds of concessions and tax exemptions. If we put all of these monies to other companies together, we will be well beyond the $3 billion that we are looking for. So a lot of our pain is self-inflicted, and it is important that we show leadership and get to grips with the situation. It's interesting, in the last few days, we've seen the cedi recovering a bit against the dollar because there has been some semblance of leadership. For the past 2 weeks, you would think that there was a vacuum. Nothing was happening in this country. All those consultations that have taken place this past week, why could they not have taken place last week? Even if there's a team away in Washington, we have instant communication. So at any time, the government knows what is happening in Washington. What prevented us from engaging the Forex Bureau owners, the Association of Ghana Industries, all the groups that we are doing before we got to this brink? Unprecedented brink where within a couple of weeks, the cedi had managed to depreciate more than 20 or 30%.
Now, Prof, I will come to you for the other things you said about what can be done by employers and everything to try and actually reduce the burden on the ordinary Ghanaian. That was also presented at the press conference. But for now, I'll take a break, and UPfront continues after this short break. The Member of Parliament who led the charge, and he didn't lead the backtracking actually, who led the charge against the finance minister is in the studios here. After this break, we'll continue our conversation on UPfront.
You see,
you're welcome back to UPfront. My name is Raymond Acquah, and tonight we've been trying to probe the position of the majority in Ghana's parliament, which was first to demand the head of the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, then with his minister of state at the finance ministry, Charles Edubuahin, then you want to say giving the president some leeway or breather to keep them on until further notice, which is after the engagement with the IMF, and also presenting the budget. Already, you heard economist Kwame Pianim dismissing the very basis for which these MPs are actually giving the extension. He believes no deal can be done within 3 weeks in the first place. He also thinks that he has no legitimacy to put together a budget for somebody else to implement. And that's what he's been saying. In fact, to him, he should go now. That's what Mr. Pienu said. And you heard Professor Techiwa Menu buttressing the point with a lot more evidence about what can be done going forward and how to salvage the economy, saying the IMF deal in and of itself it's not a solution to our current problems. We are playing the field on this conversation because we need to get to the bottom of this matter to understand exactly what has happened and what we are dealing with this. The Member of Parliament gave us the reasons why they actually agreed, but many are still not excited by your decision to not necessarily follow through your earlier demand and insist that he goes now. You heard Mr. Pianim, you heard Professor Techiwa Menu. First, are they making more sense to you under the very circumstances that you find yourself? Definitely. Or there are some extraneous reasons why you acted the way you acted, which is unknown to them?
Definitely, my brother. I agree with Mr. Kwame Pianim. Yeah. And I agree with Professor also. And I'm saying that because of the majoristic approach to decision-making, your personal opinions can be sophisticated by the majority around you. You understand? And personally, if I had my way, I will go out of the way to say, yes, we meant to do this, and so should it be. Unfortunately, like I told you before, our position was consumed by the general majority. And at that point, my personal opinion ceased to have effect and relevance because it will be consumed by a bigger majority. But if I had
okay, yes, you're making the point.
But I also think that our problem lies with our constitution. There is over concentration of power in a single hand. And in all situations over concentration of power, there's always a temptation for it to be abused. And I'm saying this because if people had checks on them, we would not behave the way we are behaving. Indeed, like it's happening in the British Parliament. If the Prime Minister is doing something untoward, if it was in Britain, as in Ghana, the head would have gone by now. We would have found a new person to lead the charge. And I continue to say, sometimes when I sit in Parliament, Mr. Kwame Penu mentions something of contracting loans.
Mm-hmm. And that you approve all of these loans.
Listen, sometimes I sit in Parliament and I wonder, is it only the finance minister's job to be contracting loans? The loans come and go, they come and go, and they come and go for purposes identified. But where is the evidence of monitoring, even after the loans, to bring a situation report of how we have applied the loans? So Parliament itself is not also doing more efficient work in monitoring.
When you say Parliament, you exclude yourself. Say
yes. When I say Parliament, I belong to Parliament.
Yes.
So, is it not the case that I am part of?
But mostly you don't get up on the floor and say these things. You do not oppose it.
Today,
until recently where you led this charge, you have been...
You need to understand the system as it works in Parliament. Mm-hmm. It comes to the House, the Speaker refers it to a Finance Committee, mm-hmm. and the Finance Committee deals with it. Okay. It comes back to the plenary with a report, the Finance Committee having approved of it. You see, understand? So even in the preliminary, you may raise objections, but your objections, like I'm talking about, the majority voice carries the vote. So even if you raise the objections, sometimes it may be too late because the report may have been done, it has been tabled before Parliament, and it is work ongoing. Mm-hmm. It will be difficult to chase it. Okay. So let's see more freedom in the discussions. And indeed, one thing I don't also like, the whipping.
Yeah, the whip system.
So it comes, and this is the position of your party, this is the position of the government. We should enjoy more independence in the Parliament to be able to raise a voice where you need to. And you see, when we put people in sector committees,
yes,
sometimes we didn't even look at the background of people who go into sector committees. The last time, there was this friend of mine who is a doctor, put in Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, and he comes to tell me, I don't understand a thing in the committee meetings. But the person is there. And sometimes, I'm a lawyer. I'm very interested in constitutional development, but you will not find space there. You are put in another committee, and you see the interest, the capacity, the competence, the background, the preparation that you enter Parliament with. If you are not careful, by the time you leave Parliament, you may have lost a lot of skills. So let's also investigate the background of people and put them where their skills will be most useful to the country.
I am drilling down to this point because there's a lot of information going around. There's a lot of information in the grapevine. Now, you personally, did you lead this charge because you have not been given any position by President Akufo-Addo?
I thank God for not having served a second term as Deputy Minister. And trust me, believe me, I will never be a Deputy Minister again.
I'm not sure why you
I will never be a Deputy Minister again.
Are you hoping that you made a substantive minister?
No. If I am a substantive minister and I take charge of a ministry, I know that I need to deliver to the people of Ghana, to the president who is sitting. But if you're a deputy minister, you may be a very irrelevant deputy minister. You may be redundant the first day you are appointed deputy minister.
Because you're supposed to help
so a deputy minister's job, if you go to your constitution, you are to assist your minister. So if the minister decides that sleeping will interpret to mean assisting him, that's your job. So that constitution is also sick because it doesn't give you a job as a deputy minister. So you are already irrelevant.
You have not answered the question. I'm saying, is it because Akufo-Addo did not give you a position? That's why you actually
No. I am a lawyer. I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
And tomorrow I'm going to court.
I will talk about that case later on.
Yes. And trust me, I am not hungry. I am not rich, but I'm not hungry.
Were you anticipating a position?
Was I anticipating? In fact, I was new to the railway ministry. It is not something I had never done in my life, but I was put in a railway ministry.
Why didn't you?
I decided to learn on the job. In fact, I am an investment promoter. Probably that is why President thought it was to bring me there. But all the investment promotion I did never materialized. Not that the investors didn't come, but because bottlenecks did not allow those investors
Who's
to be
bottlenecks?
You see, when you bring the investors here and they even have money to work. In fact, I have one pain on the Eastern Line, the railway line to Kumasi. There were investors who were capable, demonstrated capability to perform. But there was also always almost a decided case that a certain company must win a bid. And we lost that project in the course of that. And I'm saying, anybody come to challenge
the
me,
ministry or it was...
Anybody come to challenge me, I'll prove it. You understand? So me, when I speak and I say something, I invite challenges to come my way so that I can prove.
Let me press you further on this particular point. The decision to change your mind, you as majority MPs, were you people influenced not to do so?
Let anybody give me any sense of accusing any one of us of having taken anything, and I challenge everybody to do that. And I'll be happy if somebody does that, because I want to have opportunity to prove something. We are not motivated by any materialistic consideration.
Did you take money to change your mind?
Did we take money?
Yes.
You think we will do that? And I'm saying that I want somebody, one person, or anybody.
One person from where?
Anybody associated with any such person who thinks that he can give money. Anybody. If I hear anybody working for any of such persons or working for institutions.
We are speaking in a vacuum. Which persons and institutions are you talking about?
I am saying that if you are saying, were we motivated by money?
Yes.
I said no. But I want somebody from where you think they can bring money. Maybe from government.
Yes, but government is the only party in this case. Were you giving money by government to change your mind?
I want anybody from government institution, from institution owned by members of government. If, say, you are a minister of state or you are a government functionary and you own Joy FM, if I hear somebody from Joy FM making an allegation of that nature, that notwithstanding the fact that it's not coming from you, I will come out with information. I want somebody to do that.
Sorry,
now.
what do you mean by information? Information that you were bribed or you are not bribed?
I will come out with information that we are beyond the bribes.
So you were approached with bribe?
I am saying that we are beyond that. Our motivation is not the financial inducement. We don't have money in our pocket, but at least we have conscience. We will not reduce ourselves to that situation. And I warn you that though anybody who wants to attempt, please be advised. I'm sure we have sent this message to some people. They have sat upright. And I'm referring to situations of yesterday. I am saying that we have sound enough warning to people who want to influence members of our coalition with materialism. It won't happen.
People are trying to influence you.
I have said that. I have proved to people. And I want to challenge anybody. I'm saying that if I know that anybody in government owns even a business or owns even Joy FM, and Joy FM staff comes out to say that, or puts in on a platform, or puts in even on social media, we will see what will happen.
Now, I mean, so you're categorically denying that?
Yes, and I'm not.
Is it
only,
for you alone or for other members?
I'm not only denying.
Yes.
I'm challenging.
That anybody has evidence of that happening?
I'm not denying. I'm challenging, and I want that challenge to come. And
because they say your backtracking is strange. It's not. You let.
I have not backtracked.
Yeah.
I have not backtracked, and I'm not afraid to say it. I have not backtracked, and indeed, I'm only giving respect to what my majority caucus has said. But if it so happens that it does not materialize on the day we have all agreed that the man will resign, I will lead the charge. Maybe it will not take a press conference.
Yeah.
It may take another form and shape so that we will make sure that it happens.
Meanwhile, your minority colleagues are filing a vote of censure.
Well, that's another process.
Yes.
That's another process.
Do you support it?
I want us to do a house cleaning by ourselves.
Okay.
So we have to, if the man is not performing, we want him to go. Let us do it from in-house. We will not say that somebody should come and remove him for us. We have to remove
But would
our
you
own.
support the process, or you don't support the
It is a
minority?
process, a constitutional process they have started. I cannot fault them. But whether
No,
or
but the
not,
question I'm asking you is whether you support it or you don't support it.
I don't support it. I think that we have to remove him by ourselves.
Okay.
So if we remove him by ourselves, that process will not be necessary.
Okay, that's interesting.
But
as the 80 taking a decision on this minority...
But one thing though, why, with this huge public expression of disinterest in you, if it was me, I would have resigned to save the face of everybody.
The finance minister?
Yes. But what is it? What is it that is your motivation to keep you there? Everybody says that you should go. I mean, why?
I'll come back to you. I'll hear from that suit that you have filed in connection with that Adjoa Safo issue. But let me hear final words from Professor Techu Amenu. Prof, where do we go from here? Is the minority's vote of censure the alternative viable option here?
Thank you, Raymond. So I think we need to move this conversation. We even in our press conference yesterday, the resignation of the minister was one of several actions that we wanted the government to take. And as I have said, we still stand by that demand of the finance minister resigning. And so, and as the Honorable Appiah Kubi has said, the minority is within its rights to move a vote of censure, etc. So those are, everybody is entitled to exercise their democratic rights. We are in a crisis. The crisis is not going away. The crisis will not go once the finance minister is removed, but it will be a good signal that we are serious, that we want to, not apportion blame, but really penalize somebody for their non-performance and for bringing us partly to where we are now. In addition, we're talking about a whole number of different steps. Yesterday, there was a national agribusiness dialogue, and it was very interesting because part of our current problem, apart from the currency, is our food. The food inflation is really a big component of the daily cost of any household. And the statistical service, the government statistician, has been giving us figures on month-on-month inflation rates. And the World Bank recently also had something about food inflation in Ghana, which was among the worst in Africa, if not in the world. So it was interesting listening to some of the participants at this agribusiness dialogue yesterday. Mr. Senyor Hosi, who apparently is also a farmer, was criticizing the Ministry of Agric, its statistics and data division for wrong data, which cost him millions. And I saw the acting director or somebody there saying they were going to get back to him on that. We also heard the national chief farmer talking about the sparse use of technology and logistics that prevents Ghana from producing as much as even Burkina Faso when it comes to tomatoes and onions. And then we had Mr. Andani, Alassane Andani, former Stanbic chair, also talking about, what we could do, that the fact that Ghanaians consume more than they produce locally. So this persistent gap in food production and the links that we could make between agriculture and industry to launch an industrialization drive, which brings me to all the litany of one district, one factory, one village, one dam, all those flagship projects. They may have been meant well, but clearly their execution has several lapses. And one of the things that we were saying yesterday, and we continue to say, is that we really need to give agriculture pride of place. We need to review these flagship projects to make sure that we're getting value for money and we are being efficient. The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana also came out recently about these flagship projects and whether indeed they are serving us well.
Very well, Prof.
Pardon?
Now, I was asking you if you could gladly round up on this for me. I'll be very glad.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that let's not focus all the discussion on the finance minister, important as it is, but look at the spectrum of issues that we must confront, whether it's in the area of governance, whether it's in the area of the economy, whether it's in the area of energy and natural resource management, to ensure that we're really putting our country on a sound footing. That is why analyst after analyst is saying that the onus is on government and the Ghanaian people to rescue our economy, and that whatever we get from the IMF will take us only so far. And we know that these programs come with austerity. So we should also be bracing ourselves for the austerity that comes. People should not imagine that once the IMF comes in, and there are usually conditionalities, the money does not come until you have met those conditionalities. Today, I've heard people jubilating, the cocoa syndicated loan is in. So this is not the first time that it has come. We also have debts ahead of us, 80% of our GDP payments, with the projection that by December it could even go to 104%. These are very dire prospects for us. If we manage a range of actions and we are able to control the free fall of the cedi so that, it rests at 10, whatever, 10 cedis to the dollar, that will be something. But it still does not mean that the hard actions ahead of us should not start. And I'm saying that government must lead the way. We need leadership. Expenditure drastically.
I understand you perfectly. And Prof, thank you so much. Let me finally hear from you in a second on why you are challenging the adjustment decision in court.
Well, it borders on constitutional interpretation. And in fact, before even the Speaker gave out his ruling yesterday, I had prepared, because I wanted to act proactively to test the law and let the Supreme Court make a pronouncement, because the test of the language of the law, Article 97 1C says that once you absent yourself for 15 days without the express permission of the Speaker in writing, you vacate your seat.
Have you filed it?
I'm filing it tomorrow morning.
Okay, so we should speak to when you file it, because the same time is up. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on our front today. And many thanks to you, Honorable, too.